Hi, welcome to the channel. I am Malia, and for today's tutorial, the focus is on the Discord-based Distillery. Some of the new features include training your own LoRA in under 6 minutes, including training a specific style, using an image prompt adapter along with image-to-image and ControlNet to get the desired outcome, creating a mask, InPainting, and much more, all within the Discord user interface. I want to thank all the paid channel members for their support. This is part 2 of the Distillery tutorial. The link to the first part will be in the description. Basically, Distillery by FollowFox.AI is a Discord-based generative AI tool. They added some cool new features, like training a LoRA from a single image in under 6 minutes. This is not a sponsored video, and now and then, I use their services for work. Their backend is comfy, and they are open source. Training a LoRA is straightforward. You upload the image you would like to train, then type in /distill and drag that image into the prompt space. And that's about it. The LoRA training is for portraits and works very well to train a face. Remember that this is training based on a single image when training the LoRA. If you put in a portrait image, don't expect it to generate a landscape or a square output. The resolution is not important, but the ratio is. Take any image and crop it to either a square or a 2:3 ratio for portrait and vice versa for landscape. After you hit the distill command, the LoRA gets a random name assigned to it. Take a note of that. I trained about 8 LoRAs for testing. It took on an average of 5 to 6 minutes for each. If you are on the early user paid plan, you can train 1 LoRA monthly. Meanwhile, the Founders Pass allows you to train up to 10 LoRAs monthly. At the time of making this video, there is no automated way to delete a trained LoRA. The dev plans to add this later on. You can, however, ask them to delete a trained LoRA if required. I will use 2 portrait and 2 square images for the tutorial. I have already trained them. After you train a LoRA, you first want to go to your Manage LoRA to get the prompt. So, type in Manage LoRA, then enter the name of the LoRA in the prompt area. Focus on the activation keywords. If you are looking to stylize the face, you can use the entire phrase and change the realistic photography part to whatever style you want. However, sometimes you may get inconsistent results. I have come up with a formula that gives you consistent results. You start with the LoRA name, which is your main trigger keyword. Then, put in the prompt for the style. The LoRA weight is adjusted with a value in brackets. If the LoRA is too strong or burned, reduce it. If it's nothing like your train image, then increase it. I recommend a value between 0.7 and 1.2 for best results. This method is consistent mainly because I am using the ControlNet function. You don't need to upload your image and drag it to the prompt or paste the URL. A convenient way would be to enter the LoRA name followed by .png. Distillery uses Canny ControlNet. I have explained in detail about it in part 1 of the tutorial. The control weight is how strong you want the ControlNet to be. I suggest a value of 0.5. For example, if you change the clothing style, maybe 0.5 doesn't work. It depends on the image. If it doesn't work, then reduce the value by 0.1 till you get the desired results. Let's convert this to a workable prompt. So this is the trained photo for reference. I am going to try to change this to a cartoonish style. I am using a high ControlNet weight, so the face will not be in true caricature style. The second thing to note here is that it is essential to mention the person's ethnicity and gender. Both of these are important to get accurate stylized outcomes. You can add multiple LoRAs. Let's add the detail LoRA in addition to the trained one. For the tutorial, I will keep the seed consistent. You don't need to do this. To change the style, you should change this part of the prompt. Then, go about changing the LoRA and control weights as desired. Let's try another trained LoRA. To get the same style, I will only change the ethnicity and gender. I will add all the remaining LoRA prompts. This LoRA, for example, was in a 2:3 ratio. When prompting, ensure the same aspect ratio is selected as the original image used for the trained LoRA. You can also add a facial emotion different from the original trained image. Another thing you can do is add a clothing style. This one was the changed facial emotion. Pretty cool, huh? You can see with a 0.5 control net weight, it did not change the clothing to a suit in 3 out of 4 generations. However, reducing the weight to 0.4 did the trick. I will leave the prompt formula in the description. I have tested it against various LoRAs and plenty of styles. It works great. You can also try adding a background to the prompt. Make sure to reduce the control net weight if doing so. This distill function is quick and consistent. It is easy if you want stylized portraits of a face quickly. And this works very well with realistic photos. If, for some reason, you are not getting the desired output, check the dynamic part of the prompt. With my testing, I found out that the prompt you put in makes a lot of difference in the output, and sometimes, being extremely specific helps. Let's say you want to try something very extreme in styling, like cubism. Even after using an oil painting, LoRA, and being as specific as possible, it wasn't easy to get the desired face in cubism style art. Let me show you what I mean. So, for this specific LoRA, this somewhat worked well. During testing, I discovered that the outcome depended on the trained image. If I use it for another LoRA, the results are inconsistent. You can see it is not as consistent with this trained image as the previous one. One trick you can try is the LLM crazy tag after the prompt. This takes a prompt and provides you with a larger, more performant prompt tailored to Distillery. In other terms, you get a different unpredicted prompt based on your original prompt. I found this helpful because it's tailored to the Distillery model. Plus, it has a lot of leeway to be creative, and you get variable results. So, trying the prompt suggested by the model did work by giving better generations of cubism art style. I find this route more efficient than randomizing the seed. Check metadata is another excellent function for all images generated from Distillery. Just drag an image in the prompt after the command, and you get all the metadata embedded in the image. I mostly use this to check out the seed when it is not defined. Another thing you can do is train your LoRA style. Take this image, for example. This has a unique line art style to it. After I train this image, I can use the style from this image to generate other things. And it works very well. You can, of course, mix and match other LoRA with it, but to preserve your raw style, use it alone. Check out these Ford Mustang car generations. To confirm the style LoRA is working, I regenerated the batch using the same seed without the LoRA. The image prompt adapter is different from image to image. In image to image, the model uses the reference image as a starting point. However, the model starts from 0 in IP adapter and does not use the reference image as a starting point. Let's first generate a simple prompt, a 2D pirate ship cartoon. Now, I will upload a reference image to influence the model with the same style. Use the command adapt and drag-drop the reference image in the prompt. These images look burned in. If this happens, you can use the CFG command to reduce the CFG scale or reduce the adapt weight. I prefer to lower the weight. The default is 0.7. Let's reduce it to 0.4. These are much better. Let's reduce the weight further to 0.3 and add the reference image as control net. I would also reduce the control weight to 0.3. You can also use the sharpen command to increase the sharpness. The default value is 0.3. A value of 0.5 to 0.7 should suffice. Here is a comparison between the two. You can also use multiple reference images. Let's choose a ship, a lighthouse, and an ocean background. The Adapt supports control net as well. For each additional reference image, use numbering after adapt and adapt weight. Yes, you can control the individual weights for each of them. The order of the reference image also will give a slightly different output. I prefer to choose the ocean as the main reference, the ship, and lastly, the lighthouse. I would keep the weight of the ocean slightly higher than the rest. You can add a total of 4 reference images. Also, I have changed the prompt to match the control net image. You can get creative results using multiple adapt images, with adapt weights and control net. You can even add an image-to-image command here. You can do InPainting for any image. Let's take this example. The first thing you want to do is generate a grid so that you can create the InPainting mask. The grid size can be from 2 up to 20. To create a mask, you now define a grid range. For example, I want to cover the entire face, not the hair. Here, I would choose from G6 to O15. Remember to include the grid size again while doing this. Also, you can choose the grid shapes. There are only 2 shapes, round and square. Both will give slightly different results. Now, use the serve command to use a prompt, say a woman. End it with the InPaint command and drag-drop the masked image. In addition to this, you can use some other commands. InPaint control is used to adjust the strength of control net used for InPainting. For InPainting on realistic images, the default value works best. The InPaint mask feather would define how smoothly the InPainted area would blend with the surroundings. Increase this value if you see the InPainting getting cut off and you don't want to expand the mask area. InPaint Mask Grow is used to increase the mask size. If, for some reason, you want to expand it a little, you can fine-tune this value precisely. You can see there is some distortion around the earring area. To solve this, I will use a negative command with the prompt earrings. Let's come back to the grid image. You can also select multiple grids. For example, if I want to select both the eyes, I would choose a grid range from H9 to J9 and L9 to M9. In Stable Diffusion, a sampler is an algorithm that guides the process of transforming a noisy, random image into the final, detailed output image. Distillery has 2 samplers. UniPC is the default for SD 1.5 and Euler Ancestral for SDXL. You can switch to the LCM sampler by the sampler command at the end of the prompt. Distillery also has 2 upscale methods. The default one uses something called a high-res fix. It is a technique in Stable Diffusion used to generate images larger than the model was initially trained on. This method preserves the details better as it uses the low-resolution image as a guide and upscales tile by tile. The other method for upscale is called direct. This will change your face and background. So, this method may not work for the trained LoRA. This is best used when using tall or wide images. Also, use this method if you see hallucinations in the images. Distillery, by default, has some keywords added to the prompt for better aesthetics. If you don't want to include these, you can use the command raw to generate an output with just your prompt without any appends. The images on the left are generated with the raw command. I hope the tutorial was helpful. Until next time.